Hello everyone, welcome to the day 9 of Frontend Mentor Challenges. Well, this is not actually the day 9 because I have given this long gap in after the 8th video of this series. So I was busy and I had some other things to do, but hopefully from now we are going to finish this series, and the good news is there are lots of new series and videos going to come up in the next few months. So in this video we are going to create a free and junior level project. This is the project we are going to do: pricing component with toggle. We need to use HTML, CSS and a little bit of JavaScript. I have already downloaded it, but let's download it again. Okay, let's extract this in the desktop here. I will just open this up by Visual Studio Code. We also need to open up the images. Okay, design. So this is the active stage. Whenever we hover on that, it looks like this, and this is the inactive desktop stage. Okay, this is very much similar, and this is the monthly value and this is the yearly value. Okay, we need to cycle through the values whenever we want to switch this on. Okay, for mobile size it will be the normal size, but for desktop size it is kind of bigger. Okay, fine, so let's get started with that. I'll just zoom in a little bit. Fine, now this is the index.html. I'll just clear this up a little bit. Okay, and the attribute. Okay, fine, let's open this up by the live server extension, and now I am using this Mozilla Firefox Developer Edition. This one, Firefox Developer Edition, because the Chrome was having some bugs and problems on the smaller size display, so I wanted to try this out. Okay, let's create the markup first, and in here at the top we got the title, then annual, monthly, and in between this we got input field. Then we got 3 box in here, so we can use grid system for that, and for these things we can use the flex box. So in this entire template all the tests are totally centered in align. Okay, so let's create the markup. For the markup I will just create a container div which will contain everything container, and inside this let's create a wrapper. So I will add some padding at the left and right. Now I'll add the title with an JSON tag. Let's give this a class name of title. We can just grab this and paste it here. So we got a title. Now we can create a div. Let's give this a class name of pricing. So this pricing will contain this annually, monthly, and this Swiss toggle. So let's use an paragraph tag for that. It is going to be annually, and the second one is going to be monthly, and in between this we got a label. So let's use a label with the class of switch, and an input type will be check. What is the issue here? Okay, now there is no that kind of switch in CSS or HTML, so we need to actually create on. We are going to use an input of checkbox, then convert it into an switch or toggle switch kind of thing. We don't need any name, but we should give this ID. Let's give this ID of toggle. We need it for the JavaScript. Let's use an span tag with the class of slider. So we are going to use the slider thing with this span tag. Okay, we got the pricing. Then let's create another div here. I will just give this a class name of pricing main, so it will contain all the things. Inside it, let's create a div with the class of pricing box maybe. Okay, inside the box we at first got the box title, then price. So the thing is, we got both monthly and annual. So this is the annual value and this is the monthly value. We can do it to OS by JavaScript. We can either push the different value by JavaScript, or the simple way I think is that we can display both of this by HTML, and we can make the monthly on hidden by the CSS. Then whenever we are going to toggle the switch or make the switch shifted to the monthly, then we are going to make that display change from the none to something like flex or block, and the annual value we are going to add an display of none with that. If it seems confusing, it is going to be very clear whenever we are going to add the JavaScript code. Okay, so we actually need to add both of this with some defined classes so that we can actually use the JavaScript to get this and add or remove the display none from it. Okay, so inside the price box, let's at first use a paragraph text with the title of class of box title, which is the basic one. Okay, let's grab this, paste it here. After that we got the price, so we need to add both prices. Like, let's add the annual price first because by default it is going to display. Then whenever we shift to monthly, it is going to display the monthly value. So I'll add the price, which is the annual price first. So let's give this a class name of price annually. Now we can use this and dollar, and we need to design this text differently because this is so much bigger than this dollar sign. So I'll add a span tag to make that span. Let's give this a class of price and put the price inside that. So this is the annual price. We can duplicate this and give this a class name of price monthly. Fine, let's change it to $19.99. Okay, fine. Okay, after that we got these things here, so we can use an another list to make this happen. Then we can use an anchor tag for this button. Okay, now let's use an another list and list item. So first one is this one. We got 3 list items. This is the second one and this is the third one. Fine. Now we need an anchor tag for the button, so let's just use an anchor tag. I'll put a hash to make it blank for now. Let's add the text in here. Fine, the first box is done. So what I can do is I can just copy the pricing box and make 2 other copies. Okay, but for the second one we are going to style it differently. That's why we can add another class so that we can style it differently. I'll just add a class name of featured maybe. So this is kind of a featured package. This is not the basic, this is the professional on 25 and 249. Okay, 24, I forgot. Okay, 249. This is the value, but we need to change this text from here. Let's do that. This is on terabyte. Then 5 users. The third one is 10 GB. Fine, we are done with that. Now the next one is the master package. We want to change the values as well. So the yearly will be 399 and this one 39. 2 terabyte storage, 10 users allowed and 20 GB. Fine, we are done with our markup. Let's save, and this is how it looks like. Totally ugly. Now let's get started with the CSS. So I'll just open up the readme styleguide.md. We are going to use the Montserrat font. I think that is already installed in my computer, but let's again get it from the fonts.google.com. We only need the 700 font weight. Let's grab the 700 on the bold. We can import it to our CSS. We haven't created any style.css file. Okay, let's at first import this, then I will just make the margin 0, padding 0, box sizing border box. Let's save, and now it will have 0 gap between this text. It is not working because I haven't linked it up yet. Okay, let's link the CSS, and now there is no gap available between these things. Okay, fine, we need a background color and these things. So they have provided us with two different images, for one for top and one for bottom. So let's target the body here, and we need to add the font family. I actually remove this, right? So let's open this up again. Okay, so we have used the 700 bold on, and this is the thing. Now we can close this up. We need to add this with the body, and for the body they also got a font size of 15 pixels. Let's also add that font size 15 pixels. Fine. Now I will give this a body a minimum height of 100 viewport height. Also, let's add a background color because we got on. So this is the background color. Let's see the style guide here. It is the very light grayish blue. Let's just copy this and paste it here. Now we got the background color, but we also need to add the images. So we got two images. Let's add a background image and URL images, then the bg top, and then put a comma here and add another one, images, then bg bottom. Now we need to position those images. So let's add background position, and the first one will be at the right side and top, and the last one will be at the left side of the bottom. Fine, we need to make the background repeat, no repeat. Let's save, and it is looking fine and they're perfectly positioned. Okay, now let's think about this one. Actually we got a container class, so let's target the container class here, and I'll just give this a maximum height of maybe 1200 pixels. Then margin will be 0 auto to make it center, 0 auto. Now they're at the center. Okay, now let's target the wrapper here. I'll add some padding at the top and bottom. So from top and bottom let's add 60 pixels, and at the left and right let's make it 20 pixels. It is really helpful because whenever the display size will be smaller than 1200 pixels, it will have this much gap around the margin and the entire thing. Let's also make the text align to center because all the text here are at the center. Fine. Now let's target the title here. I'll just make this smaller so that we can see the effect live. Fine. Okay. Now let's target the title. Actually, it got a class, so dot. Okay, for the title, let's give this a font size of 32 pixels and a color. So you need to get the color from the style guide. It is the grayish blue color. The grayish blue. Okay, let's paste it here. It is got the color. Now let's figure out this switch box. Okay. So is an input. We are going to make it invisible, but before making it invisible, let's style this first. So we got this label with the class of choice. We don't need the for, and also we don't need the name here. Fine. Inside that we got the input and then a span. We are going to make this a span and switch. So the span will be this white thing here, and we are going to make this whole thing with the label. So the label got the class of switch and the span got the class of slider. Fine, let's target the switch here. We are going to make it display inline block. After that, let's give this a specific height and width. So for height, let's give this a value of 60 pixels and height of maybe 32 pixels. Now let's give this a position of relative because we are going to make this slider a position of absolute so that we can actually position it inside this parent element. Okay, so it is going to be relative, and whenever we hover on that, we want the cursor to be pointer. Fine. Now let's target the slider here. So you want to give this a position of absolute. After that, it also needs to have a background color. So let's do that. But the thing is, we cannot use the background color. This is not a single color. This is kind of a gradient, right? In here, in this background, so they have provided us with the colors here. It is a linear gradient, and this is the first one, this is the second one. So we need to actually create those linear gradients. Okay, so for applying a linear gradient, you cannot use the background color because this is kind of an image. So use a linear gradient, and the first value we got is this one. Let's copy and paste it here, put a comma and put the second color, which is this one. Now we also need to add an degree here. Let's for now apply 180 degree, put a comma, and everything is fine. We cannot see it, but we are going to. Okay, we need to position it. So from top 0, bottom 0, left 0, right 0. Also, let's give this a border radius to maybe 35 pixels. Now we can see it. Okay, so this is going to be the parent element, which is this one. Now we are going to create these things. So for that, we are going to use a pseudo element with the slider. Let's use before. The content will be blank and the position will be absolute. After that, we are going to give this a specific height and height. So height may be 25 pixels, height will be the same because this is going to be a complete circle. 25 pixels. Let's make the border radius to 50% to make it circle. Let's also add a background color to height triple F. Fine, now we can see it. So we need to push it down a little bit. So let's do that, and from bottom let's add 4 pixels. Now they're at the center, but we need to push it at the left end. So I'll just add a left of maybe 4 pixels. Fine, everything is good. Now what do we need? Whenever we are going to click it, it is going to get in here. So now we can make this input invisible, so we can use the opacity none or 0. So it got a opacity of 0, but it actually in here, so it is working. So whenever we are going to click here, it is going to check this input field, and whenever it is going to check this, we want this white circle to be in here. Okay, so let's target that. We are going to target the input whenever it is checked. Then we are going to target this one, this slider and before. So we are now at the input. We are going to target its sibling, which is this span with the class of slider. To select the sibling, we got a selector, which is the plus, then got the slider, and we need to target the before pseudo element of that slider. Now we can use the transform and use the translate. It is around the x-axis, so we need to use a translate x and with a plus value, positive value, 26 pixels. Let's save. Now it is here. Now it is working, but it is going to happen too fast because we don't have any transition. So we can add a transition with it. So let's say all 0.4 second is in out. Let's save. Now it looks great, right? Okay, so do you need anything else here? We actually need that. So whenever we hover on that, we need to give it this type of color. So we can actually do that with this slider. Let's add an hover effect, and whenever we hover on that, we want to change the background, not the background color. It will not work because the main element got this background, not the background color. So I think this kind of shallow color, it is this one, the first one. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. Now it looks fine, and it actually does work. Okay, now let's target these two text and make it look like this one. So we actually gave this a class of pricing. So let's target the pricing here, and we need to give this a color, and the color is this one, light grayish blue. This is the very light color. So I'll just paste in here. After that, we need to make this pricing a display of flex so that we can align them. So we want that in the center, so we can use the justify content center. Now they're at the center, but in order to make it center in vertical direction, we can use the align items center. Now they're at the center in the horizontal axis or vertical axis. Actually I got confused with these two. Okay, everything is fine. Now let's add some padding. We want the padding at top and bottom, so let's try 50 pixels. and left and right we don't need any, so 0. Now let's target the label here, pricing and label. We just want to give this a margin, not at top and bottom, so 0, and at the left and right we want some, so let's give 20 pixels. It will have some create some gap between the annually and monthly text. Okay, now what we got, we are done with the title and this thing. Now we can get into this pricing main here and figure that out. So let's target the pricing main and make it display grid, and we also need to get the grid template columns on fraction, and on fraction. So now they got this entire space divided equally into these 3 items or components inside this pricing main div. Okay, so let's target the pricing box. For the pricing box, they got the background color of white, so let's apply that, and there is no gap between this, right? And we actually don't need any gaps here because there is no gap actually. Okay, so we got the background color. Now let's add some padding of maybe 50%, 50 pixels at top and bottom, and 40 pixels at left and right. Let's also add a border radius a little bit to make the corners rounded. So I'll apply a value of 12 pixels. Fine. Now I think this looks similar with this one. Okay, after the pricing box, let's get into the box. And at first I want to target the box title, and let's give this the color they want, which is I think the grayish blue color, this one. Let's increase the font size a little bit, font size maybe 18 pixels. Let's also add a margin at the bottom to create some gap with the pricing. I will apply 30 pixels. Let's save. Okay. After that, let's target the price here. So we need to actually target both of these. Pricing, it is price dash annually. It is a dash here, not the equal. Copy this, and this is going to be the monthly. And for both of this, let's make the display flex. Before doing that, I need to show you how we are going to do that. So in this room, let's increase the font size to 32 pixels. It is for the $sign because we are going to style this price differently. So let's do that. So for the price, we want the font size to be bigger, like 65 pixels, a lot bigger. Let's save. Okay. So now the problem here is that this $sign is kind of at the same line, at the bottom line with the text, and we don't want that. We want this $sign to be at the similar central line with this text. That's why we need to use the display flex here, display flex, and align items center, also the justify content center. Let's do it. Now they are at the center. Let's change the color to match with this one. So let's do the color. It is the dark grayish blue color. I'll just grab that and paste it here. Okay, do we need anything else? No, but we need to add some gap between the $sign and this price text. So I'll just add a padding left with the price. Let's add 7 pixels. It will look fine. Now we don't want this monthly value, otherwise we are going to switch this. So we are going to make this monthly value invisible. So let's target the price monthly and make it display none. Now it is gone. Now let's target the another list here. We got this. Okay, what is the issue? Another list, and we don't need any list style here, so I'll just remove that. List style will be none, not the square. So we got some gap in here. If we inspect it, we can see it, and you can also see that it is kind of right aligned. We don't want that, so we are going to make the padding. Actually, I don't think. Okay, let's just inspect this. This is the list item here. Okay, that looks fine for me, so I'm just going to go with this on. No modification is needed. So let's add a padding at top and bottom. So let's say 35 pieces, but we don't need any at the left and right, so 0. Now we got some nice gap at the top and bottom. Now let's target the another list and list items. So let's change the colors first. This is the grayish blue color. I'll just grab the color and put it here. After that, let's add a border. So in here we got the border at the top of the first item, and every item got a border at top and bottom. So what we can do is we can add a border bottom with each of this on, and for the first item we can also add a border at the top. So we are going to do that. Let's add a border bottom of on pixels solid with light grayish blue color. Now we got this border. We also want the border with at the top of this first one. So we are going to target the another list item and the first child. We want the same border but at the top here, not the bottom. Now we got the borders. Now we can add some padding. For top and bottom, let's add 35 pixels. I think it is very much, so I will just add 18 pixels and 0. So 0 will be for left and right. Now it got some nice gap between the borders and the text. Okay. Now let's target this anchor tag here. So we got an anchor tag, and at first I want to give this a text decoration, none. Fine, let's change the text because this text here, it is totally capital. So we can use the text transform uppercase. We can also add a letter spacing, maybe 2 pages to create some gap between the text here. Also you can ignore that if you want, if you don't like this. Now let's add a background color, and the thing is that it is a gradient color, so you can just directly copy the linear gradient we have used in here. Let's grab this and paste it in here. Now let's add some padding. Actually we need to take the entire height it can get, so we can give this a height of 100%, but that will not work because the anchor tag is an inline element. We need to change it to block level element. Now it will take the entire height. Now we can add our padding. We don't need any at the left and right because it is already taking 100% of the height. We only need the padding at top and bottom. So for top and bottom, I will give this a value of 16 pixels and left and right 0. Now we got the text color height. So let's change the color of the text to triple F. Fine. Now we need to add a hover effect, because when I hover on that, we are going to got this border color and the text color. So we actually need to add an border in here. Let's add on pixel solid, and the color will be transparent. We are going to remove this color transparent and add a color. The corners are rounded, so we can also add a border radius with that. Border radius maybe 7 pixels. Now let's add a hover effect. So when I hover on that, we want to change the color of the text. I think the color will be this one, and we want the background color to be transparent, and the border color, I don't think this is this color, but I'll just use the same color here. I think it looks good. Fine. Okay, now we have done everything basics. Design looks good, but we actually need to figure this feature done out. So it is kind of different. It got all the text color white, also got this gradient background color. So let's change that. That's why I have added the featured class with that. So let's target the pricing box, and with the class of featured, make sure that it doesn't have any gaps in here, because all these two classes are applied on the same div. So if you apply gap here, that means this is the child element, but this is not. Okay, so for featured, we want to apply the background first. Let's scrub this. This is the linear gradient. Okay, now it is applied. Now we can change the padding. So in here you can see that it is kind of bigger than these two, and we actually need to cover up the border radius of these two items. So we can apply more padding, and also we can use the transition and scale effect, transform. So let's add a padding more than the previous one, so maybe 80 pixels and 40 pixels. Okay, it is bigger, but the thing with the grid system is, by default it got this align self stretch. That means whenever a single item of this will get larger or taller than the other ones, it is going to take this space as well, but we don't want that. So we are going to change those. So let's target the pricing box here. This is the single items. We are going to change the align self and make it center. By default it is stress, that's why it is going to stress up the interoid, but we want it at the center. Now this is at the center. Now the second item, it got bigger. Okay, fine. Now let's use an scale effect to cover up this border radius of these two. So we can use the transform and scale. We want the scale only at the x direction, so we can use the scale x because we don't need any at the y direction. On is the normal on, so it doesn't do anything. So we are just going to make it slightly bigger than that. So 1.05 will cover up that border radius and it looks fine. Okay, now let's change the colors of the text. I will just copy this on. Let's target the paragraph text, make the color to be white. Then again let's paste it here. Let's target the another list and list item, make the color to be white. I think the border looks pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Also, if you want, you can change the border colors as well. Now let's figure this out. So let's paste it here, target the anchor tag. We want the background to be totally white, and the color, what is the color here? This is this color, this one. So let's paste in. Now it looks fine. Now we want to change the hover color. On hover, we want the color of the text to be white. Let's change the border color to also white, and the background here will become transparent. Let's save, and it actually looks like the active stage here. Okay, so the styling is done, except it is not responsive. So in a smaller size display, it looks pretty ugly. So we are going to change that. Let's inspect this. Okay, for Firefox, this is the tool. Okay, let's increase the size here. I think we can apply breakpoint in here, 1024 pixels maybe. So let's add a media query. Media only screen and a max height of 1024 pixels. Let's target the body first. I want to reduce the font size a little bit to 14 pixels. Then let's target the price here. I'll reduce the font size to 50 pixels, which is this one. I think this is very much bigger for this display size. Okay, after that, let's target the pricing box. So everything, and we just want to reduce the padding a little bit. Pricing box, and let's reduce the padding about 10 pixels. So it has 50 pixels and 40 pixels. We are going to make it 40 pixels and 30 pixels. Okay, after reducing the pricing box padding, we can also reduce the padding of the pricing box with the featured class. Okay, so in this case, let's make it like 70 pixels, and let's keep this 30 pixels. Okay, it looks fine. So let's reduce this a little bit more. So I'm just going to apply another breakpoint with this 820 pixels, because this is kind of looking narrow. So I'm just going to break it down into different columns. Let's just copy this thing, and in here it is going to be 820 pixels. We don't need any body, but we need the pricing main, and in this case we are going to change the grid template columns to only on fraction, or you can also use on 100%. Okay, so the issue here, there is no gap between these things. We are going to figure that out later, but before that, let's remove this scale and effect with this pricing box featured. So we can edit here, transform scale x, and scale x will be on. Okay, now let's make the padding similar with this one, and I'm just going to increase it a little bit, so 50 pixels. And okay, let's make both of this 50 pixels. Let's save. Okay, now we are going to add some gap between this. So what we can do is we can use the gap of grid system. So in this case we are going to on the gap in between rows, right? So we need to use the row dash gap. Let's say we want a gap of 30 pixels. Let's save. Now we got this nice gap. I think everything looks great and fine. We don't need to do anything by CSS. Now we are going to move on to the JavaScript. So let's create a JavaScript file here, script.js. We need to link this up with the index.html. Scripts are script.js. Let's save. Fine. In the script.js we need 3 items to be changed. The first one is the checkbox. So if we want to monitor any change in the checkbox, so whenever we are going to check this box, we can do something with that. And then the second one we need here is the monthly value and annual value. So let's create some variable. Let's checkbox, and we can use the document.query selector, and it got the ID of toggle, I think. Okay, this is the ID of toggle and this is the input field, and we need to grab that. After that, let's get the monthly value, document dot query selector all. We need to use the all because we got 3 price annually and price monthly, so we need to grab all of this. It is a class, so dot, okay, I think I need to make it smaller. Dot price monthly. Let's just copy this thing, and this is going to be the annually. Okay, the variable name is yearly. Fine. Now let's add an event listener with this checkbox. So we are going to monitor any change with this checkbox, right? So let's start with the variable name, put a dot here and add a event listener with that. So it got 2 parameters. The first one is the change, so it is going to monitor the change. Then the second one is a callback function. So we want to make something happens inside here. So we can use an if else statement here. If the checkbox, which is this one, is checked, then we want to do something, right? Checked. Then let's console.log anything. Else console.log. Let's see if it works or not. I'm just going to use the inspector tool. Let's open up the console, and this is the unchecked and this is the checked, unchecked. Okay, so this is working. Now how do we want here? So whenever the checkbox is checked, that means it is going to show the monthly value, but in here it got the yearly value because by default it is unchecked. So we are going to hide up the annual value, then show up the monthly value, right? So let's target the yearly value, and we actually need to run a for each method in here so that we can get every one of these items with the class of price monthly inside this query selector all, because we got 3 of these same classes. So in order to get all of this, we need to use a for each method. So let's use a for each, and we can now use a simple variable, like you can use e if you want. Let's use price, and We can use an arrow here, and we are going to, this price will get the single price monthly, and it is going to cycle through all of these three items. Then we are going to get the price, which is the single price monthly, then target its style and display, and we want to make it none, just like that. Let's save, and it is going to be gone. Now we have removed this. Now we want to show up this yearly value, sorry, monthly value. So I'll just copy this on, and in this case this is the monthly, and we want to make the display to flex, because I have given this the flex because in here in the style.css we have given this the display flex. If we make it like something block, then it will be at the bottom, and we don't want that. That's why I made it flex. So it is working. Now we need to do the vice versa thing in here. So we just need to change things, like in here it is going to be flex and this is going to be the none. Now let's refresh, everything is fine. This is the annual value. Okay, I think I got the value wrong in here. Yes, I did. It is 249 annually and monthly only 49. Okay, this is the annual and this is the monthly, annual, monthly. So it was perfectly fine. Even for a smaller size display, this switch looks absolutely great. Okay, so this is our project, and I think we have covered all of these stuffs in here. I will upload the project in the Codepen. If you want to check out that course or play with it, you can go there. You will find the link in the description below. So thank you very much for watching, and if you are not subscribed yet, please don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and see you people in the next video. Take care and goodbye.